Gather round. It's time for your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group. Listen closely as your coaches discuss the culture, the economy, and the political scene, and how it affects your home and your real estate investments. Real Estate Chalk Talk is where you learn the science of buying and selling real estate and the art of living in your home. Your education begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, welcome to the show. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk. I'm Keith Hittner Sr. along with Keith Hittner Jr. and Calvin Kamick, the Money Man. 2025. Thrive in 25, kids. That's the motto of the year. Write it down on the back of your hand so you don't forget it as we go through.
It's a good one.
So we have been doing a little bit of statistical review for the year of our Lord 2024. And remember a year ago or so we gave our forecasts, our predictions, our prognostications. Keith thought the market was going to be down.
Down?
Sales down, units down, everything down. So I did a quick check here as of the end of the year. And the units are actually up 38,038 solds. Last year it was 37,385, so up 700 units thereabouts, and there's still like 200 pending. So we'll see, because it's pretty quick. So we'll see when the people come back from their holiday breaks and they, turn the files in and such. How many of those 200 pendings will actually have closed? I mean, I had a couple of them that closed between Christmas and New Year's. I'm sure that they're not turned in yet. So we'll get a few more of them.
So up a little bit,
up
pretty
about
light,
right? Still up. I forecasted up. It's up.
Yep.
Even if it's
said flat. So I was
probably
probably
Here's
the closest.
Prices though. No, you were way off.
No, I said flat.
I'm going to run last year's show next week. I'll have the recording from our prognostication show, and so you can be properly humiliated.
No, I was right on, buddy.
And then the
volume. What was volume?
Volume was up as well.
Okay.
Yeah, volume was up just because prices are up.
Okay.
Which is another thing, because the forecast on behalf of my son was that the prices were going to go down. I couldn't see that, so they're up about 3.4%.
And that's
3.5%
nationally, right?
Or
is that just local?
Seven county metro.
Okay.
3.5%, up about 3.5%. So normal. That's kind of a normal increase right there.
Yep.
Just pacing inflation, and the units are kind of creeping up. We're really down to the 5 diamonds, or the 5 Ds, of real estate. That's what's driving it all. Diamonds, diapers, or diplomas. Was it diplomas, diamonds, diapers, divorce, and death?
Yep.
The 5
5
Ds.
of them?
That's the 5 Ds. Not so many. Getting some diplomas, not so many diamonds anymore. The diamond part of it is actually going down, but we have cohabitating. So they're just living together. They're not doing the formal thing, and they're buying houses together, which leads to believe divorces are also down because not as many people are getting married. So divorce rate is down. No, the divorce rate is not down. The number of divorces are down, but you still have dissolutions.
Yeah, right.
So what would you do if you guys are curious about this? Have you ever come into a situation where you've got people who have been cohabitating and now they're getting a divorce? And what would happen?
Getting a divorce,
separating.
They're separating. Sorry.
Separating.
So now they broke up.
Yep.
Okay, we're breaking up. But you've got someone who's been in the house living like they're married, paying half the bills, working, but the house was maybe in one or the other's name because the other person had shit for credit. Oh, sorry about that. Had poor credit, and now they're leaving. They're leaving. It's like, well, their name isn't on anything because they had no credit. Do they have a claim on that?
No, I mean that's
depends how long they cohabitated.
Does it?
10 years or more, right?
Wouldn't
I think that's the rule. Law? Yeah, common law, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that someone could make a claim that they did have an interest in that property, especially if they can show that they had down payment money that went into it and that they were indeed making payments. The other person's going to say, no, you were just a renter. Maybe a renter with benefits, but you were just renting here and now you're moving on. Thank you very much for your rental income. But, So
Be
then,
interesting.
yeah, well then it's like, well, did you claim that rental income then? Let me have the IRS or the state of Minnesota.
Yeah, so what do you do there? Just bring a case against the other person. It's not like there's any legal documentation binding you to them or binding you to that property or the debt obligation or any of it. There's nothing there.
Right. There was oral contracts, though, that maybe were in place that they could argue, and the evidence of how they were acting certainly is evidence of that fact.
Right.
But you're right.
So you would have to straight
Call
up
it
sue the other
right.
person.
Sue the other person. You have to, and then the guy whoever is not in ownership, if they move out, then they're really in a pickle.
So what would be the
because they're no longer in possession of the property.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be stupid. I mean, there's a stupidity clause, I think, that exists. But so what would be the smart way would be is that you have an agreement put in place before you cohabitate if someone's moving into your property, right?
Yes.
Or if you're going to buy something together, then you'd obviously,
This
it'd
is
probably be a little bit easier.
This
but
is how we've worked it on multiple occasions, many occasions actually, where you did have that one person buying. They're not married, unmarried cohabitating couple.
Mm-hmm.
One person has good credit, and so their name's on everything. Then immediately after closing, there's a quitclaim deed to put the other person in title. So that now at least they've got a legal document that's stating that. Same thing holds with divorce. We've seen it many times with divorce, where the settlement is that one ex-spouse or the other is going to stay in the house until such time as the kids graduate from high school or whatever it is, and then the house is going to be sold. That's the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, when we were talking about just cohabitation and putting somebody doing a quitclaim deed after. They have no debt obligation now on that property. So if it's just like my girlfriend over here that I'm having move in with me, or even if I was just buying a house, because a lot of times we're working with young couples who we're out shopping together and we're looking at properties together. The girlfriend's along for the ride or the boyfriend's along for the ride, but the girlfriend is actually the one that is she's the one that has the job that qualifies for the mortgage to buy the property, and a lot of times in advance it's like, yeah, he's coming with, or she or he is coming with, but I'm actually buying the property. So in those cases, we're never doing quitclaim deeds after closing, because they're still kind of like getting the relationship going. But if it's somebody that is like, we've already owned this property together, now we're selling it, we're not married, but we're going to buy another property. In that case, a lot of times where it is the decision like, oh, his credit's better or her credit's better, so we're just doing it this way, then they're doing the quitclaim deed after the fact. But sometimes it's like a touchy conversation.
Very touchy.
When you're having that conversation up front, because the relationship's just not there yet.
Right.
So clearly this is just a purchase by one or the other in that case.
Yeah, I think the quitclaim deed thing's super dangerous.
Yeah.
Because like you said, they have no debt obligation, but they have rights to half of the property.
Right.
Well,
that's tough.
Nothing saying about that. But there's nothing in the quitclaim deed that talks about percentages of anything. What it does say is that if I leave the property, I've been living in the property for 5 years, helping make the payments, buying groceries. Money's been going into an account that we are paying the household bills with, and I need to have some.
Right. But the quitclaim deed does
gives them an
address
interest in the property.
Does address percentages depending on the type of deed. So if you go into joint tenants or tenants in common, there is a percentage, and that is 50%. You own half the property essentially.
Yeah, we're not offering legal advice. We're just saying from a practical standpoint, from things that I've seen
that you've seen
times, a million times. And one of them, our clock isn't on, by the way. So a million times that I've chased people all over the country, ex-spouses, to get them to sign off on a deed.
I actually remember that. Yep.
And sometimes they'll sign off for a price. And even though it was agreed upon in the decree, it's all good. Now they've all moved on. It's 5 years later, and now it's like, well, maybe $10,000 would help me
sign this. Get my hand
ready
to go.
Facilitate that. Yeah. So we're going to come back from break. We've got Inspector Holmes. Ben from Inspector Holmes is in the studio. We're going to talk about, get your thinking cap on now. I'm going to talk about the differences between winter and summer inspections, number one. Number two is there a better to have inspections. What is better to have done in the winter that you actually think, it actually works better if it's cold outside? And then what is better in the summertime, which I think would be most things. But I would guess that there's a lot of that stuff. So I have some questions on that I just want answered. This is Your Real Estate Chalk Talk. I'm Keith Hittner Sr. along with Keith Hittner Jr. and Calvin Kamen, the Money Man. Boy, I can't wait until the fourth segment of that program, because that's the one thing that we all blew. Every one of us last year thought rates would be down by the end of the year, and we were all wrong. Missed the boat on that deal. So this is Your Real Estate Chalk Talk. We'll be right back after these messages. Hey, welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. This is Your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group, hittnergroup.com. Hittner Group, that's all one word, hittnergroup.com. 612-627-8000. That's 612-627-8000. Give us a ring-a-ling-a-ling. We'll be happy to chat with you about your real estate needs in 2025, all with no cost and absolutely no obligation. Got a bunch of properties coming on the market. We'll talk about that in the later segments, but we have Ben from Inspecta Homes in the studio, and I just thanks for coming in.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So I've got some questions about winter inspections. So we're going to be selling some houses over the next couple months. It's in the winter. It's cold. Wind is blowing up your skirt. Is there any kinds of, when your people go out and they're doing inspections, is there a lot of things that they just can't inspect now?
Well, what we're concerned about first and foremost is their safety.
Okay.
And so, a lot of our inspectors like to get up and they like to walk the rooftops.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, obviously, if it's snow covered or if there's ice dams, that becomes a safety issue.
Okay.
And so what we'll do is we'll do visual observations. We'll make as many notes as we possibly can.
Do you use drone for technology?
We actually
then to go
just
up?
started. Yes, we have Ace Drones as a partnership that
Okay.
we're looking into, and so we're just now getting into utilizing drones. We have drone abilities for our commercial properties.
Mm-hmm.
This will be used in our residentials as well,
All right.
and it'll also have infrared,
Oh.
which will allow us to see moistures.
Infrared drone?
Infrared, infrared drone. So
Oh,
infrared.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So you can fly over the top of the rooftop and you see where the heat's coming out.
You absolutely can.
Okay.
Yep, and there's a whole lot of other type of technology like LiDAR, and again, I don't know enough about that, but it'll tell you structurally, where there's some weak points, like for in a commercial building and so forth. So it's quite
Let's
impressive.
talk about the infrared for a minute. So you guys have had the capability inside homes to use infrared, but you don't use infrared to walk around the home and give us like a heat loss scenario, correct, during a general home inspection?
Well, we use moisture detectors, and that will allow us to tell what the temperature difference is inside the wall. And so winter isn't going to slow us down for that at all.
Right.
What we're going to do is we're going to see if there's any types of water intrusion. If you look and see if there's any staining in the window wells, my inspectors will go in and then they will actually use a moisture detector.
Yeah.
And they'll find out where, in fact, those temperature differences are, and they'll make note of that. Where that temperature difference is, there's likely water or the brick is saturated at that point.
Yeah, that's a moisture reading, though, with a little bit of a probe that you have, right?
It is, yep. And so in the
I know
infrared...
some of your inspectors have the capability of doing infrared, just like what's to look at the living room vaulted ceiling where the fireplace is.
Yep.
And you could show that there's heat loss around these particular areas, but that's not part of a general home inspection that you guys
We will do
is it?
that because we have it's called thermal imaging. It's a little piece of equipment, looks like a flashlight with a little display up here.
Yeah.
And that will tell us, it'll give us an infrared reading where, okay, this doesn't look normal. Then we follow up with the moisture detector, okay? And that's what gives us the internal temps of those walls.
So if I'm a homeowner and I'm concerned about energy loss and whatnot, can I request that
You absolutely can.
as a up or add-on to my service, just like I would with a sewer inspection or anything else?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And we have actually had a couple of those requests recently.
When you are, now I'm thinking energy for the heck of it, but in Minneapolis they require an energy audit or some kind of a additional test on their truth in housing. Explain what that is and what that does for a consumer.
They're looking for efficiencies. They want to make sure that there's a certain amount of efficiency going into those appliances and that it's doing their core job. Now, we are not by any means appliance technicians, right? And so we're not going to go out and inspect each individual that the heating exchange, for first and foremost, we do not inspect heat exchangers. Okay, we'll pop off the furnace. We'll make sure that it's made within a certain period of time. We'll note that, and then obviously, if it's a 35-year-old furnace, we're going to say that this furnace life expectancy is anywhere between 25 and 30 years. We recommend that a licensed HVAC technician come out and take a peek at this, and go through that. Those are the things that they're looking for to give that seller, or pardon me, that new buyer an idea of what that could be. Okay, and it allows the seller to figure out, okay, well, this could be a problem coming down the road, and it just prepares everybody for that conversation.
I'm always curious about that because my wife, an analogy coming your way, my wife injured her knee playing pickleball. So she's got sprained this, that, and the other thing, and a torn this, that, and the other thing, right, in her knee. She's been hobbling around for 8 weeks. So she goes and has an MRI, and they say, well, we think you should have a consultant with a surgeon. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of like you guys saying, oh, I think you should have a roofing contractor, look at the house. Well, what do you think the surgeon's going to say? He cuts for a living.
Yep.
He says you're going to have to have surgery. We'll go in there and clean it up and blah. Well, the same thing when you make that recommendation that a licensed HVAC contractor comes out and looks at a 25-year-old furnace, what do you think the recommendation that he's going to do?
Useful life is expired, and we should replace.
We should probably replace it. So
you want to be safe, right?
You do want to be safe.
You don't want to die of carbon monoxide poisoning, do you?
Do you? Do you want to die that way?
I do see your point on that, but it becomes also, Keith, it becomes a liability, for us as well. And so, like I said, we're not licensed technicians that can go out and fix these things, so we can't necessarily stand behind that work. And so it's a liability aspect,
so,
and we just have to watch that.
But when you do an inspection, this is my whole crux with this thing. It's you guys' opinion, but your opinion will then dictate a lot of conversation that occurs that can either kill a transaction, help a transaction, So it's good and bad,
but
I feel like.
That's
right?
where the American Society of Home Inspectors, come in and utilizing their standards of practice and their codes of ethic.
Okay.
We follow those every single time that we go out. And so is it an opinion? It is, but it's also based off facts, right?
Yep.
And so it becomes a point where our inspector needs to be just as knowledgeable about the house as he does about talking to the consumer. Okay?
Right.
It's a very, very fine line. Our job is not to go out and scare that potential buyer.
Right.
It's about to go out, educate them, and make sure that they're well informed so they know that they made a good decision.
Kind of eyes wide open.
Yeah.
Feel, right?
Yeah.
And that's where a good inspector, I love home inspections, to be honest with you, because it's a good tutorial for the prospective buyer to go in there and learn about his house, learn about the mechanical systems
That's the most
of
important
the house,
piece I can.
and all of that. And does this house, we're dealing in the Twin Cities, so we've got houses that were built in the teens, and then we've got houses that were built last week. Obviously, they're built to different standards and different codes. So the house that was built in the teens, at the time this house was built, that was built according to the code at the time. It's been functioning, obviously, for 100 years. So it's not like it's going to burn down tomorrow. Is it like one that was built yesterday? Well, of course not. And can we make it like that one? Probably not.
Yeah.
Quality material isn't there any longer.
Yeah.
Quality craftsmanship isn't there any longer. People, when they built those homes in the teens and the 20s, they built them for generations to live in those homes. So there was a different level of pride of ownership. It was a legacy that they were willing to give to their family and hand down for generations.
I just had this conversation with someone recently, and they were talking about this older homes that were built in maybe the 40s or whatever, pre-World War II. And they said, well, is it bad to have an old house like that? And I said, well, it's got a new furnace in it. The roof's been replaced. The windows have all been replaced. The 2x4s are actually probably better than the ones they're using today because they're full dimensional lumber. So they're
actually better.
They're not.
Right?
It's actually better.
Yeah.
We just had a home inspection on a house that was built in that era, and there was a lot of items that came up in terms of code compliance. And we had a lot of conversation with this one particular buyer about the expectation of a home that's built between 1900 and 1940, and you can't expect it to be up to current code. And so at some point within their home inspection, it was my listing, that became a big point of contention for them in purchasing the property. And, it's always it's hard to say what one buyer is going to think is important and one is not. That transaction didn't come together, and we had sold it, another week and a half later to somebody else. They had the home inspection, and they came back with a very minor, change out this GFI outlet and get the radon taken care of. I mean, it was just a nothing deal to them because the house, like Senior had said, had been functioning properly, has and currently does function properly. Is the plumbing like it would be built today? No. Is the electrical like it would be built today? No, it's not. But the house functions properly, and everybody's going to be safe and have a nice, cozy home. So.
And I do. I mean, I actually really like those 40s and 50s built homes.
Me too.
They're built solid.
Yep.
They've been here for 70 years, and there hasn't been any issues as far as them walls caving in and whatnot.
Right.
I truly love it, and I love the character, that those homes have.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to head out to break here. We'll talk a little bit more about home inspections when we return. Inspect a Homes, inspectahomes.com. 651-641-0641. Did I get that number right? 651-641-0641. inspectahomes.com. This is Real Estate Chalk Talk. Log on to our website, hittnergroup.com, Hittner Group.com. There you can check your home value and shop for homes online at hittnergroup.com or give us a call, 612-627-8000. That number again is 612-627-8000, and we'll be right back.
Hey there, welcome back. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk. I'm Keith Hittner Sr., along with Keith Hittner Jr. and Calvin Kamick, the Money Man. 612-627-8000, that's the number to call. 612-627-8000. If you're thinking about moving in 2025, give us a ring-a-ling-a-ling. We want to make sure that we speak before you do anything that you don't need to do, and make sure that you spend time working on things, maybe preparing the property for sale that will actually be beneficial to you in terms of improving the desirability of it to the buying public. 80-20 rule is the thing that we work on. We don't want to spend money on something we're not going to get a return on, and we want to make sure that we do spend, like Keith Areno always says, if it's broke, fix it. If it's dirty, clean it. If it needs paint, paint it. Simple as ABC. Mm-hmm. All right. I'm curious about the updates, though. So, from an inspection, you go in a lot of times. You have an inspection, and you've got maybe a different kind of plumbing pipes in the house, and you've got a fuse box with fuses in it, not circuit breakers. People freak out over that one.
Yep.
It's like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with fuses. When they put in a new,
You just got to have the spares down there.
you got to have the spares down there, or at least a box of pennies.
Yeah.
So
Oh, God.
so you
paper clips.
paper clips to put them in. Paper clips will burn out. Well, that kind of acts like a fuse then. So there. I'm just kidding, everybody. So don't know.
Can you still get the fuses, though? Can you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you go to the
Hardware
hardware
stores.
store, get
Yeah.
fuses.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
And the fuses obviously work because when you go in, when they put a new air conditioner on your house, what is it tied into?
Fuse box.
A big fuse box, right, with a fuse. So yes, they work very well. On every device that you have, inside that device is a fuse.
Yeah, and the circuit breaker with GFIs or what do they call them? Ground fault.
Yeah.
Those are all little fuses too. So.
Yeah. All right. So here's the thing. Does that thing need to be replaced? And it's the conversation that goes around that is so critical, because many times an inspector, and you kind of wonder if he's been primed a little bit by the buyer as they've gone through the house, say, well, we kind of like the fuse box, so make sure that shows up on the report. Do you ever hear that kind of conversation for people?
No.
Okay.
No, I have not personally. And lately, I would say within the last year and a half to 2 years, we're requesting that the buyer come about the last hour of that inspection. We want our inspector to go in and actually do their job. Mm-hmm. And we can't, it's hard to do when you have somebody kind of hovering over you or micromanaging you.
Yeah, there's a time for that collaboration, and the way you guys have changed not changed, it's kind of always been that way, but the actual request for it, certainly over the last couple of years or so is nice.
So you, as a real estate agent, have noticed the
I like it
benefits of
that way.
too.
I mean,
Okay,
we've kind of always had a great relationship with Jeff and Blix, of course, who's no longer with us, but Carlson and some of the other inspectors, that we prefer it that way. I mean, we tell our buyers, you can certainly go whenever you want, but you got to let the guys do their job too. So, just stay out of their way. If you guys are out measuring for room sizes or whatever you're doing, it's fine. But we're not even going to talk about the inspection until, probably 15 minutes, 20 minutes towards the end of the inspection.
Which is perfect. And that really has a lot to do with it. It's just communicating with your customer. Let our guys go in and do their job.
Yep.
Right? Let us bring this to you in terms of that report, like Keith Jr. said, the last 15, 20 minutes. And then let that Jeff Carlson, get in there and start explaining. They are so good at explaining this stuff. If it's a fuse box, the fuse box is there for a reason, because it works, right? And so
if
it's
not the way it's done today, but it's a perfectly acceptable form of
Right.
electrical safety in the house.
Well, and it's like going into St. Paul and you're going to see a boiler. Okay.
Right.
Well, D.R. Horton's building brand new homes, in Eagan and whatnot, and of course they're using furnaces and zone heating and whatnot.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's great, but this works just fine. Okay, and there's no issues with this, so let's not invest another $10,000.
Many would say it's better.
But maybe,
better. It's just more expensive. And now you see boilers all over the place because they all have on-demand hot water.
Right.
Those are just little boilers, sitting underneath the sink. That's what they are. It may be electric, it may be gas, but they're boilers.
I think it's more of a shock to see fuses in a fuse box these days, right? For a buyer. But as long as it's communicated, and it's not just the inspector communicating that, it's also the real estate agent who's in there going, not just selling the home, but
Right.
talking to the buyer. The buyer trusts that real estate agent.
Yeah.
There's a reason, right? And there's a reason why the realtor had called or recommended the inspection company, because we have that relationship, we have that trust.
Yeah, that was part of the conversation. We talked last segment about a house that I had recently sold that was an earlier era home. And part of the conversation with the buyer's agent is that it sounds like there needs to be a conversation between you and your buyer about what the expectations are in their price points and the types of homes that you guys are looking at, and the average home that you see in that price point has a lot of these same things. So if this one doesn't fit for you, the next one's probably going to have a lot of the same things in it. So having an understanding of the housing stock and your price point is super important, and that falls on the real estate agent.
It does. That's amazing how many times you speak with a real estate agent. That's where experience comes into play too, because you talk to some of these real estate agents, and I don't mean to be degrading to anybody, but they don't have a clue about how a house is actually put together.
Yeah.
And so they go through an inspection, and they even if they go through the inspection, which most agents don't attend the inspection, if they do attend the inspection, they don't have any idea what's going on.
That was my first question to that agent. I said, did you go to the home inspection collaboration meeting with the buyer and the inspector? Because in that case, a lot of times they're just sitting there eyes wide. Like, what is this honeydew list of stuff?
Yep.
There needs to be that perspective, and that's why I love Inspector Homes, is that I think you guys are very tactful in providing that perspective.
Thank you.
On things that come up in a home inspection, because some things are legitimately major, and legitimate safety concerns, active water leaks, active fire hazards, open wires, things like that. Broken trusses, the structural items, those are important.
100%.
Right? And then there's going to always be, even on a new home. I mean, we've had inspections on brand new construction homes, and there's always going to be something. There's always something.
I'll be honest. New construction it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong, but please have a conversation because there's always going to be something wrong with new construction.
Yes,
always. You're going to have nails pop. You're going to have foundation marks. You're going to have maybe an appliance is going to break but again, those are setting the realistic expectations with your buyer.
Yeah, and with new construction, I mean, the conversation around having a home inspection with new construction is a fine conversation to have, and a lot of times it's there are multiple inspections throughout a new construction build. There's structural inspections, there's plumbing inspections, there's electrical inspections, there's roofing inspections, there's waterproofing inspections. All these inspections are happening along the way. So you do have to wait quite a bit if you are going to have a home inspection. And from a contingency standpoint, there's nothing there. Like typically, if you want to have a home inspection in a new construction property, great. It's hard to make it contingent on that. Build is going to happen still. But we have had home inspections that aren't contingent on inspection, it goes to workmanship warranties, and it's easy to have a conversation with the builder and say, hey, we had an inspection now, and these are the things. Because prior to closing on that property, we do a walkthrough, and having a home inspection has been a benefit in some cases where we've had the builder come back out and say, hey, we see a void in the attic space. Maybe you guys missed it. And they're like, oh, gosh, we did. This is with the large tract home builder. And we did have a home inspection, and they came back out, and they're like, oh, that's our bad. Yep, we'll take care of that. No big deal. And they're very good. I mean, the builders are very good about handling these items. And they say they don't care if you're going to have a home inspection, but I know that they're like,
they do.
This guy's
They do
having a
care.
home
They
inspection
care.
here.
But I just had a conversation with one of my inspectors who did a handful of inspections for properties for a builder that were just completed. And came back to my inspector and said, boy, I got to tell you, thank God we did this. Because I didn't know that our crew missed these specific things
on every house.
On every
And
house.
we don't want to go back. I mean, they don't want to go back.
No.
And
They
mess with that
absolutely
a
don't.
year,
Nope,
you
they
know?
don't. And who knows what the cost of
Yeah,
labor
the
and
crews are
product is
all
gonna
in the
be.
neighborhood right now, so
Yep.
let's just get those things
Get
taken
over
care
there.
of. Yep.
And we
A proper new construction home inspection is not a one-time inspection.
no.
I mean, I think that every time there's a major thing done, when the plumbing gets inspection, your inspector should go out and look at it. When the framing's inspected, the inspector should go. You never know. Once it's covered up with sheetrock, you don't know what's behind that rock, and you can see where there's windows aren't blocked correctly around the outside. You can't hang drapes on them because there's no blocking in it.
If there's moisture within the
Or
panes.
they haven't foamed up inside with the insulation, but all that stuff gets hidden once it's covered up. So for new construction especially, you'll have multiple, and it's worth the money, in especially with a significant property, to have an inspector go out there on every major inspection that the builder has to go through, to have that, because I've seen the home inspectors, quote unquote, from the city come through. And trust me, they get very comfortable with a builder.
Yeah.
And they'll
So
walk,
homes from 1925 to 2025,
Yeah.
get yourself a home inspection. You can
Yeah.
do that. Start that at inspectahomes.com. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Inspectahomes.com, 651-641-0641. This is Real Estate Chalk Talk. Log on to our website, hittnergroup.com, and give us a call, 612-627-8000, and we'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. First show of the year, 2025. Calvin's got all the forecasts all lined up. He knows exactly where interest rates are going to be for each month.
Just like last
So I
year.
can't wait till he ticks it down.
Been perfect.
Huh?
I'm 100%.
651-231-2500. You want to talk to him in
100%.
person.
100% wrong. Every year I do this.
Yeah, I know it. For 18 years
18
now.
years.
You're consistent.
Yeah,
Nothing,
I'm great. Yeah, so take none of this.
nothing else. You're consistently wrong.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Well, I'm first going to hit real estate because I thought that was interesting what you said. First segment, so Freddie and Fannie also do the same study, and they look at what mortgages have come through, what home prices have been. They have the U.S. average change year over year was a 3.69%.
Okay.
So then they go through east, north, central, east, south, central, and go through all the different areas. But the average 3.69. So we fall right in line
Yes.
with that. So kind of interesting, and real estate's still a really good investment, right? So when you look over a period of time, it makes a lot of sense.
I still think individual property values are down. They are.
I do too.
They are.
I kind of feel that too.
They are. I mean, if
Yeah.
you look at a split level that sold, last year versus this in the same community, it's not 3% or 4% more.
You know
If
what
you
I
look
think
at-
is down, Keith?
If you look at
Hold on.
2 stories that are 4-bed up, 3-car garage, and like doing markets on properties,
Yeah.
I've seen over the last couple of years where that property. I mean, we've had this conversation multiple.
Yes.
Oh, that home would have sold for this
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
day, but now it sells for less.
You know what I think?
Well, that means property values, individual property values, are down. One more point.
Thank you.
When you
Thank
look at the Dakota County Property Inquiry tax values, tax values are down.
They are.
So
Mine.
to say like, ooh,
Mine are up.
median sales prices,
I just got mine. It went up.
stop. Just stop. Median sales prices are up. Yep. And how do you calculate that? Average sales prices are up. Right. And how do you calculate that? Are we looking at an individual property and saying this property right here is worth more money than it was 18 months ago?
All right.
You can sell it for more money today than you could 18 months ago or 2 years ago. No.
I think you're.
In some
See,
cases,
yeah.
yes. So when you look at lower valued homes, lower valued properties, townhouses, condos in suburban areas that aren't saturated with these things, and people are trying to buy the lower priced homes, those values, are they up? Yep, I would say that those values are up. The entry-level homes that are all gussied up, your Richfield ranches, all those things.
That's the key.
Are those
all
up?
gussied up?
Yep, those ones are up. So what does that do to the overall averages? It brings
Pulls
the
it.
overall average up. But to say that everything is increased in value,
Well, no, I don't think you're.
Like if
saying
I
that.
but that's what everybody
No one's-
says.
right.
I mean, you
I know.
report like, oh, values are up
Yeah.
3.5%. Like,
That's
okay.
average. They missed the word average. So average is up, but what also is up? Median sale price is up, which means that, and this is how I interpret it, first-time home buyer purchases are down. That's the lower end. So if you've got volume up, which we do by 1,000 units or 800 units, so volume is up, and units are up, but first-time homebuyer units are down, then which properties are selling? The higher-priced or mid-priced to higher-priced properties are the ones that are creating the bulk of that increase. Well, that's going to bring the average sale price up.
Yeah, and median.
And median. And median. Exactly right. Median's the key because that's where you see that. Okay, so now...
To me, it just says where are the sales happening? Are they happening?
Yeah.
More of them
And
happening here. So then it adjusts the median price and the
Right.
average price.
So the higher price homes are selling more, right? The new construction stuff is selling more, so it's pulling all those.
Yeah, people that
up,
don't
right?
care about the interest rates.
As
And to
much.
your point,
Yeah.
Keith, I think what you see when you talk about your lower price on homes that the home values have gone down, like the split entry home with a 2-car garage, which is definitely, I think that the asking price is what you're seeing down, and that asking price is maybe not even down, but that asking price now is more matching the sale price, where when interest rates are at 3%, the asking price is the beginning, and then the sale price.
That's legitimately based on demand for the whole market.
Yes.
That is legitimately increasing value. The cost of that item, it increased dramatically from whatever year to whatever year. Who cares? Nobody cares. It increased dramatically over the last 5 years, and now we've kind of settled into this like little this little wave of, is it up this month? It's down this month. It's up this month.
Yeah.
It's seasonal. Like all those things come into play, and
Every month you see every week you see the headlines.
I think it's
Sales
pretty,
rebound.
It's just pretty flat.
Yeah.
It's just
Sales
pretty
rebound,
flat.
pending sales are through the roof, and then the next week sales down, pending sales
Right.
fall off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's-
and then get to some revisions, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and
that's-
then you're
that's
like,
all
well,
other-
how can you change that? Like, what can change about that?
Interest rates.
Interest rates, economy as a whole,
It's all interest rates.
public sentiment to the market environment, all those things will change that.
Right.
New administration now, so
See what
some of the
happens.
things that change in terms of energy. I mean, energy is huge, obviously. When our monthly or monthly, yeah, but the cost at the pump is $2.50 instead of $3.50. Like that changes things for people. The inflationary environment that we're in, like, does that go back to where it was, or because energy does shift and the cost of goods and get the goods there, does that start to help out with the cost of a box of cereal for a family of 4? Those are all things that are going to play into
Right. It'll cost less
what
to get
happens
that
over the
product to
next
shelf.
5
Yeah.
to 10 years in real estate values.
But it's like anything else, the price goes up, but it never always comes back down.
Not all
Right.
the way, but
Yeah.
hopefully it
Comes back
it's got
down.
to come. Well, that's when they
Stabilizes.
talk about inflation. Like, hey, inflation is but you went up
It
9
stopped going
freaking
up.
percent.
Yeah.
It went up 9%. Now you're patting yourself on the back because it only went up 1%. Well,
Yeah.
it's still 10.
Yeah, exactly.
God, drives me. Business drives me crazy the older I get. Right.
Well, it's just they're all going for the headline.
Yeah,
It's-
I know. So let's talk about rates and where everybody predicted last year. I just have my notes here. Late in 2023, 30-year fixed was near 8% is where we ended. So everyone was predicting 2024 stabilize at 6% or lower. And that's kind of where we went as well, because I'm just, I'm not the smartest guy, so I read stuff and then
You're also hopeful.
yeah, and also hopeful and needing to make a living.
Yeah.
So a couple things in there,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And but that didn't happen. The average for 2024 was 6.72% 30-year fixed money. So that's kind of where the market.
6.7.
6.72% was the average. Okay. And now you look at the predictions for, and a lot of the headlines are rate, all the analysts are already off for 2025 because rates right now are over 7%.
Yeah, they're
again,
starting
right?
higher than what
we're
the
starting
expectation
higher
was.
than what everybody thinks, right? But I'm just going to tell you where, because I'm not the smartest guy in the room, I'm going to give you these. And this is the 2025 mortgage rate forecast from various sources. And you pick which one you believe is going to be right. So Redfin says the average will be 6.8% for the year. Housing Wire, 6.6. Goldman Sachs, 6.5. Mortgage Bankers Association, 6.5. Fannie Mae, 6.45. Wells Fargo, 6.4. Bright MLS, 6.4. NAHB, National Association of Home Builders, 6.3. Realtor.com, 6.3. First American, 6.25. NAR, 6% because they need home sales.
Yeah, let's go.
So
They were like you last year, and every other year.
So the consensus is we're gonna
6.5.
They
6.5,
say there's going to be
yeah.
going to be a handle with it's going to be 6 on the front of it, and I believe that if we can get to that lower 6 range, because then we can do some stuff. We can get a high. If we can get a 5.99 paying a point, or we can do a 1-0 buy down or 2-0 buy down. 2-1 buy down that now we're in the 4s and then we're going to 5 and then we'll end at 6.25. That's palatable for people, and they kind of like, okay, I like this now. And
when do you think that? How fast will that happen before we can get a 5 in front of it with a reasonable cost?
End of the year.
Do you think it'll be end of the year?
I think so. Ben's saying second quarter.
Second quarter.
I'm saying third quarter. Ben's a little bit more optimistic. Ben's background is mortgage guy. He's one of the smartest mortgage guys before he got into this stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you, Calvin.
So,
no, not one of the smartest guys.
So tell me why you think second quarter, because the issue right now is people are real concerned with the new administration coming in. Now this is just mortgage rates, right? But they think, Trump talks tariff, so that tariffs lead to inflation. That's going to lead to higher rates. Mm-hmm. They just need to see that, like when Trump was in office previous, he will threaten, he will hit some people, but inflation was really good. It was
he did.
Yep.
See, there's no proof of that because he did implement.
I know,
tariffs.
but that's what
we don't have a ton of time,
and there was no inflation.
Why do you think second Q2?
Because I think you need to give the administration some time to work.
Yep.
I think there need to be a few changes, and I also believe that there's some deregulation, coming as well.
Yep.
And I think that's going to paint a glass half full for a lot of investors and a lot of different people out there. And I do think we're going to see a bump into the 5s.
Do you? Mm-hmm. Okay, but you think sooner than I do.
High 5, second quarter.
Wow,
that's aggressive.
God, I love you so much.
Thank you. I just want you to do well.
Thanks, buddy.
Right.
Thanks, buddy.
Hopefully you're right.
So hope you're right. So anyway, if you want to have a conversation, because we are busy, we're getting busy. Honestly, everybody posts everything right now about how great everything was.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it's true, some of it's kind of BS. But everybody needs more business. I do. So I'm raising my hand saying, you can call me because I'm not as busy as everyone else who's posting that how busy they are.
Well, call Calvin,
651-231-2500,
Mortgage Guru, resident mortgage guru Calvin Kamick, 651-231-2500.
Good job, buddy.
Give us a call, 612-627-8000, hittnergroup.com. See you next week.